So, Caleb and I are going to be talking about what we know is going on from a standpoint of marketing. And this crisis that we're in is incredibly transformative for any business, and it's very disturbing. Our hearts go out, our prayers go out for those who've been impacted and affected by the coronavirus. You know, my very first copywriter is dead because of the coronavirus. Many business owners I know have had coronavirus, and praise God, they've recovered. A pastor friend and his wife that are elderly, they had it, and they had to go to the hospital, but they've recovered. And many people that I know have discovered they've had it, didn't even know it. So it's something that our hearts go out. But our focus today is not on the politics. It's not on the health issues. It's on the economics. It's on the consequences to business, because the consequences are unbelievable. Every day, businesses are in danger of failing. Every day, businesses are losing revenue. And as we're going to see, some businesses are doing okay. Some businesses are doing very, very well. And some have positioned themselves to survive this pandemic, to be able to move ahead as things start getting better, and then being able to put themselves on top and dominate their market. And the goal and the objective is to help everyone. So one of my objectives for clients in creating their copy and graphics, their media plans, and being able to help them in their marketing is to look at the now and look at the tomorrow. To plan for now and be able to move ahead for tomorrow. So what do we do in this crazy economic crisis that we're in, where half the malls might disappear, over half the restaurants might disappear, hundreds of thousands of businesses disappear? You know, I've been in tears, actual tears, when I've talked to or seen business people who are in suffering right now. And so we have people on this webinar that are small businessmen, entrepreneurs. We have large corporations. We have marketing directors and presidents. We have people who market business to business and market to the consumer. And so this webinar is covering a broad range. And so, Todd, you want to go to the next slide, and we'll start going through this. And as we go through this, I want you to be able to know that our desire on this webinar is for you to come away with actionable items. So we're going to go through emergency actions. We're going to talk to presidents and marketing directors what you should do right now and what you should do in the future, and give you some fresh ideas. And we're going to try to keep it quick. And let's go to the next. So when we talk about the coronavirus survival and growth, in this webinar, we're going to spend a little bit of time, not much, because some of you may not care about this as much, but we're going to take a look at what it means about having a recession or a depression. Because if that's the economic condition that we're going to be in, you've got to learn how to market in that condition. You have to know what's going to happen. And here's the thing, we have 100 years of history of recessions and that data. In the last, since I started the business back out of college in the late 70s, I've been through 6 recessions. And I've seen companies in those recessions who struggled and became dominant in their industry. So many companies have been successful, and we're going to talk about how that happens. And then we're going to say, Caleb's going to start off with redefining your marketing and advertising after the coronavirus and during this period of time with some of the strategy, the market trends that you should be using. And then I'm going to talk about some of the copy and graphic and media changes that need to take place now and you need to transition to. And we've got people who market to consumers. We have people who market B2B. We have retailers. We have political and nonprofit and religious organizations listening in. So we're going to try to cover all of that. So let's go to the next, because I want to go through this very quickly. But this has been like a bad pandemic movie plot, but it's real. You can't ignore it. In fact, you're not. We got over about 70% of the people working at home. And now states are starting to open up. 27 states are starting to open up. And the faster they open up, the faster there'll be a recovery. And the fact is, less companies going out of business. So as we take a look at this, I take a look at 2009 to 2017. We saw the economy slowly growing after a major recession, after the Great Recession crash. And then 2017, 2020, there was this big economic growth. Overnight, it disappeared. We were up with a GDP of 2.9%. And now, Goldman Sachs says it'll be a 34% contraction. We're seeing maybe as much as a 32% unemployment. 30 million people filed unemployment, but there's probably closer to 47 million. That's worse than the big depression, the Great Depression of the 20s. Never have we seen anything like this. So how do we recover? And what do you do as a president and marketing director? This economic devastation is terrifying, but there is a path. And the fact is, the economists talk about a V curve. And that is where quickly we recover from this. And from a marketing standpoint, from a president's standpoint, with that V curve, and we'll talk about timeframes on that, that means at the end of this lockdown, at the end of this, we see a huge recovery quickly. And that's what we're all hoping for. A U curve it extends out a little bit longer, maybe an extra 4 or 5 months. Nobody wants that. The L curve would be a continuation of the nightmare, where it just is kind of flat and very, very low recovery. And then some fear the W curve. And the W curve is we have this rise, and then we have this fall, and we have this rise again. I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to look at the U curve, but be aware of the economic realities. And that's the good thing about having accountable advertising. We're going to talk about scientific advertising, where you always know your cost per lead and cost per sale, because that guides your marketing plan. So as we take a look at this, in your action guide, I believe that this is here. So we won't go over it, but there's recession and there's depression. This could be a depression, but recession is when there's a huge, significant decline in activity spread across the economy, and it lasts longer than 2 quarters. We're going to see that for sure. 2 quarters of misery. That's where we hope it's going to turn around. The worry is we're going to have inflation. That's where prices are going to rise double digits like they did in the 70s. Or we might have deflation or stagflation. This is what happened for so many years, where there was high inflation and no economic growth. My belief is that we're going to see inflation, but we're also going to see growth. And we'll have to create a new term because this is such a different economic environment. Next. Now, the history of recessions, there's the Great Depression. And we had unemployment at about 9%. That was huge. You notice that the Great Recession, we had 10%. Right now, we have maybe 30%. We don't know how bad this is going to be. But if we look at the other recessions, we see that the recovery time often is dependent upon if it was an economic problem or an event problem. An event problem like this, the recovery time is always faster. Next. So as we take a look at that, what are companies doing right now? Here's the latest survey of companies. 79% of all marketers have cut all or most of their advertising. I've had marketing directors say, Craig, I've been ordered to cut. I know I shouldn't, but I can't go on. I've had others say, Craig, I have no buyers. I have to cut. I've had others say, Craig, I've got people who want to buy, but I'm afraid to market. What do I do? 11% have the same budget as they had before. They have not changed their budget. And 12% have actually increased their ad budget. Some of those because the marketplace is saying do so. Others because they're looking ahead because they want to be the first to dominate their market and become industry leaders. We did this with True Religion jeans. We built them into an industry leader during a recession. We did this with so many different companies over the years, and we'll talk about what is the right choice. So as we go through this, go ahead. What I want you to understand is that you have to reinvent your marketing. Re-examine everything about your company's current marketing, advertising initiatives and assumptions. You know, you might feel overwhelmed. You might feel depressed. You might be just worried. So many of the people listening in, how do I pay the paychecks? You know, what happens if I got the federal government loans for my salaries and my rent? What happens when it runs out in July? What happens then? You know, there's so many different things, but we got to look at the marketing and advertising that we're going to do next. So as we take a look at this, here's the history, and I'll send everybody this because we don't have time to go over it much. But let me just say this: study after study after study says that those who cut their budgets suffer. They suffer during that time of cutting, and then they're behind when the recovery hits. You know, McGraw-Hill's most famous study is that over 365% increase in sales happen for those who increase their advertising budgets after every recession. That 2.5 times the market share growth, another study, 9% growth for another study. And what's the difference? It's increasing the marketing and advertising budget. One study shows a 3 years head start that the others can't catch up. So the conclusion of all this history and the conclusion of what I've seen with clients after clients in these recessions is that cutting your budget in bad times prolongs the negative effects. Number two, those who increase can profit quicker and stronger. And three, you increase your budget, you're going to have an increase in being able to succeed and dominate your market. And that's the objective. How do you come out on top? And that's our path that we're going to take a look at. Some of us are in a situation where we just don't have the budget. Some of us have a budget that we can't pay ourselves, we can't pay employees, we can't market or advertise. But that's going to turn around, and that's what we're looking at. Let's go next. So when we talk about this, when you cut your budget and your advertising, you're ignoring certain criteria that's essential. Cost per lead, cost per sale, the lifetime value. You need to reinvent your position. So I've seen company after company. There was a obscure marketer, VectorVest. And VectorVest came in the middle of the tech crash, and they had this little service. And he saw what happened, and he reinvented himself from information to technology. And he took his information and made it into technology. And we grew him into over 100,000 people paying over $600 each to be able to get information and use his technology. It wouldn't have happened without that tech crash in 2000. We took a alternative health marketer who wanted to market to chiropractors and doctors in the middle of the recession of the 80s. And now he has over 100,000 paid continuity buyers. He has a $24 million mail order operation. And he's able to succeed in this market while others are failing. So now's the time to review your unique selling proposition. Nowhere else will you find a company that does what? Maybe it's what you've been doing. Maybe it's slightly different. Maybe it's greatly different. So you see it instantly with McDonald's, with McDelivery, I guess it's called. Help me out on that, guys. All these companies are transforming themselves for this economic environment. That's what you have to have an audit for. Maybe you need a second opinion. Maybe you need somebody from the outside to take a look at what you're doing and critique it. But it has to be done next. So as we take a look at this, the clock is ticking. You know, what happened when the shutdown began about 6 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, crazy, is paralysis. Everything was shut down, you know, and responses dried up. But that then transforms into fear. And that's kind of this May transition we're going to see. So we're coming out of April, we're going into May, and there's this kind of fear that is prevalent among buyers and consumers with consumer confidence, business people, business owners, marketing directors. There's this kind of fear. This is the time. If you have not changed your marketing, if you have not adjusted your marketing, you've got to do it now. It's got to be recognizing. And at the very end, I'm going to talk about a dozen things you have to do creatively now. And media. Caleb's going to talk about the media that you got to be using now. And then around the caution period. And every recession, people start buying again cautiously. Big purchases, small purchases, B2B, consumer, donations start coming back. All this happens. And that's going to be around June. Now, June, the problem is the PPP ends. So what's going to happen? That's where the uncertainty is. But right now, we know that you have to be prepared for the marketing in June that's going to be smart, accountable, scientific, and able to get you the leads or the clients that you need. And then we have the area of confidence around July or August. That confidence should be returning. This fits into what the V curve is. And then the big buying starts in September and October. This is where a lot of economists believe that you're going to see this V curve taking off. And so you do your initial marketing, your positioning, you do your testing, you do your adjustments in June and July and August, and you prepare to hit hard in September and October. If you wait, you're going to be left in the dust, and that's a problem. And then November, December, it's going to be the enthusiastic time. This is the normal progression in an economic downturn. Next. So here's the reality of the marketing today. There has been such a decreased competition in the marketplace on ads on Facebook, Google, pre-rolls, direct mail. You know, nobody's sending out direct mail for markets and stores and retailers, and mail is just dried up. Even though online marketing is booming, the mail is dried up. So these are all, with decreased competition, there's less distraction. Your message is going to be more powerful. While the others are on the sideline in fear, your message is being paid attention to. But also 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% decreases in media, TV, pre-roll, all these crash in costs, media costs. And then there's also fewer new product launches, which means less clutter And if you have a new product launch, it gives you a huge opportunity. That's why there's so many companies take off. And then we call this the share of voice. Other companies in your space or your sector, they cut or stop. You're the voice. Your share for the amount of money spent is dominating the marketplace. And then here's the other good thing. Response rates are up in some sectors. It could be in your sector, response rates are up. And some will be up in a month or two as the recovery moves on. So we're going to see that happening. And then to dominate your market, you need to excel in your marketing and advertising now. Thanks. So what to do now? You need to evaluate your situation, your target audience, your marketing budget, your advertising message, your media plan, your product mix, your positioning and branding. All these have to be evaluated. Major economic success for those who act now, and a disaster for those who get it wrong. So again, maybe you need a second opinion, but you need to spend the time and the focus on what you're doing and how to adjust it. So many companies move immediately to change their landing page, to change their Google ads, to change their search. I mean, right now, if you're not using search for your competitors, you're missing a huge bet. It's cheap and the response is so great. You got to be doing the direct mail. You may not have been doing direct mail. Direct mail now is going to boom. So what is it you're doing now? You got to be prepared for it. Next. So what I want to do is look at 12 marketing channels and strategies and tactics that are so critical that every one of these, have you changed your marketing? Does it reflect the reality of your prospects, their fear, their concerns? We'll get into that in the copy. And Caleb, I'd like you to start off, if that's okay, with explaining these trends that we're seeing, these coronavirus survival and growth trends that we've identified.
Absolutely. So most of our clients, when they come to us, they're looking for guidance on how to generate direct response sales. So I would say 70 to 80% of our clients at any given time are advertising direct to consumer. And in targeting the ideal customer, we come up with a marketing plan that tailors to not just identifying the right person that's likely to become a customer of our client, but how are we going to have a conversation with them? How are we going to reach them with the advertising message? And that's where we come in with multiple deliverables or multiple kinds of advertising that we get to approach that client with. So when we put together an ideal list or audience of people that we want to target, we like to target them with multiple kinds of marketing deliverables. So if I'm targeting, let's say, for an example, 100,000 new prospects for my client, those 100,000 people you can see here on this wheel are receiving a direct mail piece. The same 100,000 people are also seeing banner ads online everywhere they go. Those same people are seeing native ads or what look like articles syndicated throughout content that they're consuming online. Those same people will see an ad on Twitter, on Facebook. We remarket to them if they've clicked on any of these ads. All of these deliverables are targeting that same group of 100,000 people that we know are highly responsive to this kind of product that we're advertising. So this integration of all of these marketing components targeting the same people creates repetition, which creates a higher likelihood of response and ultimately conversion and higher sales. That's at the core of everything we do is this repetition of the message using marketing integration. Let's go to the next. Here's an example of one client who's in the publishing space. And the publishing space, if people are familiar with Agora or with The Motley Fool, which are both clients that we've had and launched in their inception, these publications sell a subscription to financial newsletters mostly. And these financial newsletters talk about the economy and different stocks that the newsletter writer is looking at They might have a model portfolio of stocks that they recommend that you buy. So the ideal customer here is not just an investor, but it's an investor who's self-directed. It's an investor that is motivated by the research that they consume. So the person's also inclined to pay money and a premium for intelligent advice. Our client here in this example is Independent Living, Lee Bellinger, and he's been around publishing for about 35 years with his publication, with about 60,000 paid subscribers. Now, Lee has a primary audience of direct mail recipients. They receive a physical mail piece of his newsletter. So naturally, that same audience, because they like consuming a paper educational material, we send direct mail pieces to likely responders. But those people are also online. Even if they prefer to read something physically, we follow up with that same group of people, as you can see here, with not just a direct mail piece, but with banner ads, with Facebook ads, with native ads, and all of those things point to a point of sale, which is a landing page that we've tailored to pay out the message of this campaign. So if you're familiar with this publishing space, it's an audience that reads a lot. So in our advertising tactics creatively, we also create these long direct mail pieces. In here, we have an example of a magalog. We also have an example of a newsalog, as well as a traditional direct mail envelope. Strategically, to the people that are most likely to respond in this advertising mix, they received all three pieces of direct mail. Again, that's increasing the repetition of the message that we're sending to them. And when we look at the people that received all three direct mail pieces, we're able to see up to 5 times the response from that group, from the juxtaposed to the people that received only one piece of direct mail. Let's go to the next. All right, so data models. When we're putting together a list of people that are most likely to respond, a lot of people ask, well, how do you know? And I will say, we don't. We always have to test what we're doing. And in testing what we're doing, naturally, everybody has assumptions. As an agency, we discussed with our clients who their target audience is, and then we put together different methodologies for what we call data models. And data models are using transactional metadata that's collected on people's spending decisions. So if somebody is inclined, for an example, to buy sportswear like Nike shoes, when you buy your Nike shoes, you're tagged with a tag of a sportswear buyer by a big data company. And then if you buy Under Armour, you're again tagged another time with a buyer of sportswear by that big data company. And then again, if you buy Adidas running shorts, you're tagged as a sportswear buyer. So now your consumer record has multiple points associated with a highly likely consumer of sportswear. I can put that metadata together to then say, for a sportswear brand company that works with agency, that here's a highly likely sportswear buyer for your new product launch. And we're going to advertise to them using the multi-channel marketing approach that we just discussed. When we work with data models, we can either build an affinity model like we just discussed, saying here are people that like sportswear, or better yet, we can create what we call a lookalike audience and take a list of the people that have bought your sportswear brand or whatever it might be, and then algorithmically find what they have in common as far as spending decisions based on that big data. That will then give us a list of people that also have those spending habits, just like your current customers. We call that a lookalike. And lookalikes are very common with companies like Facebook and Google, and they'll use metadata associated with people's clicking history or searching history. But what we like to focus on are transactional histories. What are people buying? And then how do we replicate a buyer versus a likely clicker, if you will, or search person? When we test a modeled list against a non-modeled list, we always see an increase in response. So if you're not currently using data modeling with these big data companies, tapping into all of the data points that are available, not just clicking history and search history, but also metadata on transactional history, you should into it, and we're happy to talk to you more about that. Let's go to the next one. Transactional data modeling. So like I had mentioned, we put together, using this transactional data, a list of people that are highly likely to respond based on their spending decisions. And then we serve them, first and foremost, a direct mail piece. And then we take that same audience and we have access to their IP address, to their email, their social ID, which whether their IP address is their home IP, their office, or their cell phone, or their iPad, their social ID is going to show up on all of the devices that they activate with their social media. That way we're able to target people with Facebook ads, with banner ads, pre-roll ads. Those are the videos that you see before you watch any video content online. And all of those components, again, targeting the same person that's receiving that physical direct mail that we often like to do. Let's go to the next. Trend number 3, Facebook targeting, Facebook advantage. So a fascinating thing in times of panic and recession is the cutting of media spends across the board by large companies. Now, when that happens, we see that the media prices decline, which means you have to spend less money for the eyeballs that you would usually be spending to generate for consideration of your product or service. So Facebook is no different. Right now, if you were to engage in a Facebook media buy, you'd be paying less than you normally would be paying for the same amount of eyeballs. Now, there are different tactics that we can use. We like to have a variety of methodologies in our Facebook targeting. First is the custom list. When I work with a data model, I know that those people are very likely to respond transactionally to our offer. So I take that list of 100,000 people and I buy media on Facebook to say, Facebook, I only want to target these 100,000 people. I want to target them with a budget of $5,000. I want them to see it a lot for about 30 days. And then I also take that group and I use a Facebook algorithm to create a larger lookalike off of those 100,000 people that I'm doing a custom list to. Now I'm creating a lookalike off of the people that I know are transactionally inclined to purchase the product and are not currently the customers. And then last, I like to serve video ads on Facebook, which are more expensive, on a remarketing basis. So after somebody's clicked on an ad, they've considered your offer, maybe they were distracted by dinner or chores or whatever it might be in life, and they've left, they've abandoned, they didn't end up clicking through and purchasing. I then come back to them with a more expensive video ad on Facebook. Let's go to the next. So, banner ads. Now, display ads are great. And display used to be a big volume driver of traffic. And today, I think it's great still for awareness. But we really like to test our banner ad strategy and our display ad strategy in a variety of ways. First and foremost, if you're not using display ads for remarketing to those people that have abandoned, like I had mentioned a moment ago on Facebook, where we go back to them with a more expensive video ad on Facebook, we use these banner ads to go back to people that have been in that cycle for a long time, and we can come back to them with a special discount offer, bring them back, and finally converting that new prospect. Here we have an example of a text-based banner ad, and this banner ad is strategic, based off of A/B testing. We'll look to see what works better for a client, a more image-based ad or a text-based ad. And often the ugly, and I will admit it is ugly, ad with a lot of text often outperforms a brand-friendly, very pretty image. And we think it has to do with the direct calls to action and the intriguing headlines. So we also rotate the kind of copy that's on that banner ad. Now, the methods for serving these ads, we can also use custom lists. So I can take that data modeled audience that I know is likely to respond. I can create lookalikes off of those audience. I retarget to the people that have not gone through with the purchase but have landed on the page. And then also, I always like to tease people on that ad with the promise of a video, that if they click, once they get to the page, they're going to be able to see a video. Even if they don't click through and then end up watching the video, if we promise a video, we see an increase in clicks. And then native ads. Well, we use the strategy of heavy copy, as I had mentioned before, to give them a higher likelihood of clicking through, because it looks almost like native content wherever these ads are placed. Let's go to the next. Trend number 5. So I mentioned earlier the pre-roll advertising. That's video content that you have to sit through, and I'm sure you've seen it, where you're trying to watch a video and you have to sit through a commercial before you get to content that you're trying to watch. We love to use this pre-roll content, especially when we're doing a remarketing campaign. Again, it's a little bit more expensive to serve these pre-roll videos. So in my opinion, it's best utilized going back to the person that's already clicked through, already considered, they've already seen your offer. Now you're coming back to them with another appeal, and you're coming back to them with more information. Now, again, the methods for serving these, we can use a custom list and go to that perfect modeled 100,000 people. We can use a lookalike, and then we can also do direct buys on intelligent websites that we know are going to contain the audience for the offer that we're advertising. One of the greatest innovations in television placement is also this programmable and addressable TV. So now we can take that same 100,000 person audience that we know is a highly likely buyer of this offer, and we can buy media that shows up as a television, not on their computer or their cell phone or their iPad, but on their television. We can serve them a TV commercial on a commercial break.
Caleb, can I add one thing on that? Sure. And that is this. Because you have close to 70% of the people working at home, you have all these people not working or working part-time. The amount of people, I mentioned about direct mail, people aren't getting their direct mail. The amount of people watching videos on YouTube and the other platforms has just boomerang. It's just giant. It's such an increase. And the amount of people who are watching TV and addressable TV, the amount of people has just grown dramatically. And that's why people are finding, if they have the right message, that the response rates are up. But the beautiful thing is that our costs are so low right now, and they're getting so much more reach. It's awesome. Go ahead, Caleb. Sorry.
No problem. Let's go to the next trend. Trend number 6. It looks like I jumped the gun on addressable and connected TV. So obviously the traditional media buys of television are reduced at the moment. So if you are a marketer who likes to reach their audience through direct response television, now's the time to buy, because people are at home. They're watching more TV than ever. You have a captive audience, and you get to pay less to serve them an ad than you did 2 months ago. So traditional media buys, select markets, select times, and select channels, with the right strategy, you can dominate in this environment. Now, addressable TV and connected TV, those are the what I just mentioned, where we can use a tailored audience, and that, like I had mentioned, the 100,000 perfect data model audience, and only serve those people a TV commercial. So instead of blanketing an entire channel at a certain time of day, we're only going to be serving the people that we know are likely buyers of the product. Let's go to trend 7. Equity crowdfunding. So I will admit that I'm a big fan of the crowdfunding space. We've been involved in that since the legislation was proposed and passed in 2013. And we've helped a number of projects raise capital under the new laws. If you have a database of customers, if you have a database of advocate customers, then you have an opportunity here to do a small capital raise under some of these laws. You can go to the people that are advocates and excited enough about your brand and appeal to them saying, if you like us, we ask you to join us as partners. And in doing so, you'll be a shareholder of our company. And you can structure an offer to have a dividend or some kind of debt offering or straight equity and raise some capital to help you dominate this marketing opportunity that you have. Now, we've done this successfully for a number of clients, so if people have questions there, feel free to email us, and we'd be happy to refer you. We also published a book on some of the methods that we use for reaching those investors. Let's go to trend number 8. So text message marketing. So obviously, text message marketing has been a boom for the last decade or so. Now, as another touch point, we love to integrate. Now, there are a lot of opt-in rules surrounding text messages. So what we like to do is work either with data collection, which allows people to double opt-in, so we can serve them those text messages, and come back to them as a remarketing tool. And the remarketing tool, we see a great return on with those people that are willing to go as far as to double opt-in with their cell phone number. Now, we come out with new products and we mine different customers' databases using this text message marketing. But there's an even newer technology that is far easier called an MDoc, which is essentially a PowerPoint that we're allowed, or not a PowerPoint, a PDF that we're allowed to send. So we can send outbound marketing with brochures, with what would be a direct mail piece to the same people that we're advertising with all of the other components that are in our integrated marketing mix. Let's go to trend number 9. Number 9, rules of email. And Craig, I'm going to allow you to go over the email section and give us a little bit of insight and wisdom on what you're seeing with our clients here.
Okay, so very quickly, email has to be an important part in this pandemic of communication. More people are looking at their emails. A lot of spam is still going on. A lot of clutter is still going on, but actually it's less than it was before. And the fact is, if you don't communicate more frequently, then that's going to be a problem. So just real quick, we try to make sure that every single email, this is how it's changed. If you are sending out email and they're devoid of talking about your product and its relationship to this economic crisis, to the pandemic, to the current circumstance of your prospect, if you're not giving them valuable information and added information, you're going to be deleted. You're going to be sent into cyberspace. You got to be able to give them value. That every time I anticipate getting something even better, I'm going to read the next email because I learned so much from this one. So that's got to be a major change. And we do right now for clients prospecting email that you're all familiar with, but we do the integrated. So Caleb explained to you about the advanced data modeling, the transactional data modeling, TDM. So we get these names of the perfect prospect. And not only do we send Facebook ads or pre-rolls or direct mail to them, We send email to them as well. That's called an integrated one. The one with Elon Musk, he's in the news right now quite a bit. And what this is, it's a mailing piece, and it says, hey, this is going to be in your mailbox. And then it says, next email says, this should have arrived. And then the next email says, hey, if you didn't get it, maybe it was thrown away. And it increases response. And of course, with the email, video is key on all of it. Next. Now, direct mail. I'm going to actually do a little bit more with direct mail just because of the opportunities. And so many people have not used direct mail. And with direct mail, let me just say this. It's a historic opportunity. And the ideal thing to do is to test direct mail in June and July. Verify the response. Verify your message. If you already have a mailing package, if you already have mailing pieces, they got to be changed. They can't go out the way they are now. You got to make the changes on the landing page and everything else. But you need to be able to start testing now so that you can market heavy in the third and fourth quarter. There's less mail, less competition, more people are home, even for business to business. And I have a picture here, and I'm going to send this to everyone. You know, over the years, one of the things we found is we got 20, 30, sometimes 40% higher response when we're marketing business to business, but we're sending the message to the home address. Well, now with so many people at home, how do you do that if you don't have their home address? Well, one of the ways this email shows how you ask the people that you only have your email for their home address. And it's a marvelous way of collecting it. There's other ways of doing it. We can take an email address, or we can take the business address and match it against our master consumer file and identify their home address. You need to be able to market to their home. And then there's all kinds of new innovations and formats I'm going to talk about. And then what's been transformational, it's been night and day between the old direct mail and the new direct mail, is the transactional data model. And the core is that integrated multi-channel marketing. Okay, next. So as we do this, I'm going, if you want to see samples of any of this, you can. But what about direct mail and its resurgence? It's resurging now. There's a myth that direct mail doesn't work. False. The big tech companies all are using direct mail. And now that you have a TDM, it's so much better. And these new formats, so much better. We also are going to talk about some of the other issues like informed delivery that are better. So there's a magalog. A magalog looks like a magazine, feels like a magazine. It's usually 16, 20 pages. We did one for surf control on marketing leads for software that was 24 pages long. Magalog is dramatic. It tells your story. You know, we've done 13 infomercials, 400 TV commercials with 13 infomercials. Well, this magalog is an infomercial in print. And then there's a bookalog. People are reading books. And this can be an electronic version as well as a direct mail version. When somebody gets a book, a 100-page book, but it's a sales piece in the mail, they're going to read it and they're going to respond to it. And it's a powerful, powerful way of proving you're the authority. And they're not that expensive to send out. Next. Another direct mail format you may not have heard is what we call retro marketing. We tried this a few years back to a client that had a magalog, and they got such a great increase in response. It looks like a newspaper, feels like a newspaper, but it's not a newspaper. But it gets great response. Next. Another trend that we're seeing is with the envelope mailing. High quality personalization is now available, or having something that looks official and has some uniqueness to it. We've mailed over 1 billion direct mail pieces, and I gotta tell you, these type of formats work so well. Next. let me just give you an idea. In everything, when Caleb's talking about Facebook and Google and pre-rolls, we test. We talk about direct mail, you test. You see which one works best. Here are 2 envelopes. The only thing changed is the outside envelope copy. Everything else in the mailing package is the same. Which one worked better? You try to guess. Between the 2 that you see on your screen, which one was better? Well, if you guess Godless Coins, it got about 30% higher response. You see, we've tracked over 10,000 variables that we use as a data set to decide what to do and what not to do. And you've got to always test next. One test, for example, one of the biggest mistakes those who mail make is with the postage. What? Postage? Yes, the postage. The bottom envelope is called a metered envelope. The middle one's called a pre-canceled stamp. And the top one, that's called a pre-printed indicia. That middle one, the pre-canceled stamp, doesn't cost you any more. That one gives you about 15 to 20% higher response than the meter envelope or the indicia. So there's little things that determine the success or the failure of a direct mail campaign. Next. And then in a 5-way test, this basically shows that the letter is the most important component once you get by the envelope. Next. And then we have the whole issue of the new changes in direct mail. There's, for example, a thing called informed delivery. Do you know that millions of people, the first thing they look at every morning is an email they get from the post office that shows them the mail that's coming in their mailbox? They sit there and look at it. That has boomed in this pandemic. And so you can show a sample of your direct mail piece, and then under it, on the right-hand side, you see it showed a sample of a magalog we sent, and under that is that video image with a banner ad that people can click to when they get that email from the post office, click to and get to the landing page right away, and they don't even have to see the direct mail. It dramatically increases response, and the post office doesn't even charge for it. It's free. Next. And then we have what's called direct mail retargeting. And this is really awesome. Every one of you, the most valuable thing to you are leads coming in and people coming to your website. But what if they don't leave their information on the website? Well, now the technology is that you're able to identify them, get their postal address, and send a direct mail piece to them within a couple of days after they've been to your website, when they're still hot, when they're ready to go. You don't want to lose that opportunity. Next. And then we have trend number 10. That's the 3-dimensional marketing. 3-dimensional marketing is where you send a package. And it is powerful. Our highest response rate was 98%, where we sent a set of 3 rare coins. And they couldn't get the last coin in a nice wooden case till they talked to a representative. This one transformed a business-to-business marketer. In a recession, they couldn't get any leads. This produced the leads to the most skeptical audience, and they got really over $1 million worth of sales. Caleb, do you have any quick examples of a couple of 3D projects that really you were excited about?
Absolutely. This year we won an award for a 3-dimensional piece that we did for an event-based marketing, which obviously during the coronavirus there aren't very many events going on, but we were able to win that award. The goal was to generate some earned media coverage. So we invited the editors for various publications out to an event, and we used a 3-dimensional package to get there. We generated about a 23% response rate with the 3D package that we used. The event was obviously free for them to attend, and it generated the coverage that the company wanted.
All right. Yeah, they get amazing response. And there's something similar to, in the three-dimensional field. Go to the next time. And that is a video log. And a video log, you get it in the mail and you open it up and it plays a video. It could be a 2-3 minute video. It could be a 30-minute infomercial. And it's got the sales copy. It works so well. And we will send you a link to a video I did showing it in action, but it's powerful. You want to cut through the clutter. You want to be able to dominate your market. Think about a video log. I was talking to someone today, actually in recovery from coronavirus, and we're going to be doing a video log in regards to going to lawyers and being able to convince lawyers about their product and service. Next. So one last thing I want to talk about, and that is to be able to have a real concentration on your database. You know, right now, you don't want to abandon prospecting. Again, it depends upon your product or service. It depends upon your timing. Be glad to talk to you offline about that and how it applies to you. But everyone's got to take a look at their database. And, you know, key to it is your prospect list, your customer list, and move them from being a customer to a client to an advocate, developing that relationship. And recessions and economic downturns, your core group, your people that you have to develop that loyalty with, is that database. And there's action plans that you should be using right now for those. And if you're not, do so. And if you've got one in place for any of these that we list, they got to be updated. Next. So I want to quickly transition into some mistakes that are going on. You may have seen some TV commercials, you may have seen some videos, you may have seen some banner ads, Facebook ads that you got totally annoyed with because they're showing crowds of people, and you're not around crowds of people today. You're seeing people in, you know, at sports events, and you're going, what is this? You know, it just looks like it's such a disconnect from the reality people are facing. What about your website? Does it have disconnect to it? Your landing page? Are you being real with your audience? Whether it's online or hard copy, persuasive word engineering, it makes all the difference in the world. And you got to apply the rules of direct response copy. That's copy that motivates people to respond. That follows a set of rules. And let me just go through this real quick. Next. So when we take a look at all the people who are marketing right now, we want to have a reality in advertising. You address the fears. You don't ignore them. The hurts, the pain. You don't ignore them. And we use what's called preemptive copy. We put ourselves in the shoes of the prospect. What are they thinking? What are they fearing? What are they wanting to do right now? You know, we did in the last recession a whole campaign for somebody selling windows. Nobody buys windows in the middle of a recession when they don't know if they have income or a job. So we addressed that in the headline. You've got to be able to have this reality in advertising. You know, I just listed a few of the things that I've worked on here about business situation, the fear of catching the virus, the unemployment, the fear of losing a salary, all these fears. Be preemptive in your copy. Be preemptive in your approach. That's what people want to hear. And believe me, if you're not, they're going to ignore your message. Next. So key to being successful, what are you doing in being able to do this? Whether it's TV, whether it's native ads, whether it's direct mail, whatever. First of all, don't talk about yourself. We call it myopic marketing, M squared. It's where me, us, you know, people only care about themselves. There has to be one clear theme. It needs to be very specific and detailed. It needs to be conversational. It has to be you-oriented, not us, not our. It needs to be easy to read. There needs to be drama and surprise. And we always still today, the Flesh Kincaid, 8.5 or less in all copy. Next. And so with this, key is taking the benefits, not the features. I am so tired of hearing about company features. Nobody cares. Like investment software. Feature provides real-time market data analysis. So what? The market's crashed. It's had the biggest crash in history. And it's had the biggest rise in history. The benefit is you have immediate access to the same in-depth information as professional traders to navigate those volatile markets. Maybe okay, but here's the ultimate benefit. This is what should be used. Pinpoint your next big profit opportunity with the same tools of Wall Street traders without the worry of another market crash. You come up with what the benefits are. Next. Every product, every service does that. Next. That's the email I'll send to you. On the creative turnover, at the end of your copy presentation, ask yourself this. Next. Does it grab my attention right away? Todd, it's supposed to be 13 deal killers. Do you see a 13 slide coming up? No, it's not there. Does it grab my attention right away? Does it recognize the self-interest, pain, and fear? Do I recognize immediately a good value proposition? Is it written to me and me alone? Do I feel the writer cares about me? Do I feel the writer believes what he is saying? Do I believe the writer? Why should I buy now and not later? Is there an alternative? And do I feel safe and comfortable about responding? But also, do I feel that I can afford it with the uncertainty? Is it safe for me to go to the store? Is it safe for me to buy this product? You know, you got to overcome those deal killers. Everyone listening has deal killers that you've got to overcome. Next. Well, we've covered a lot of stuff and went through quite a bit. And before I have Caleb close, let me just say this. There's 2 books. I'll be glad for anybody who has listened in. If you want an autographed copy of either of these 2 books, the newest one's the new multi-channel integrated marketing. It goes into detail on the things Caleb talked about that I talked about. It'll give you a path. In fact, I don't know how you operate in this new market without this path to success. So that book is available on Amazon, or you can email us. We'll send you a link to a website, a landing page where you can buy it from us, and I'll sign it for you. But you got to get a hold of that book. The other one is what Caleb talked about. If you want to raise funds, not in the public stock market, but just privately, that book is the guide to it. It gives you the marketing roadmap for that. Next. So putting it all together, Caleb and I would like to help you. We'd love to talk to you if you got questions, if you need help. Look, we've been through it. We've seen the devastations in the past. We're seeing the devastation now. We want to help you be prepared for surviving, for growing, for dominating. We can do this. Caleb, do you want to close off on this?
Sure. If you have questions or if you'd like to speak with us, we'd be happy to set up a time. Feel free to email me at caleb@cdmginc.com. Our phone number here is actually our office line. You will reach one of our receptionists that will forward to our cell phones here at our houses. But feel free to email us if you have any questions, or if you'd like to set up a time for a one-on-one chat about how we might be able to help.
Okay. All right, very good. If you've got questions, go ahead, call, email. We'll be glad to answer them. And we really hope that this has been of value to help you think about what you're doing and what you need to do. All right, thanks.
Thank you.